Welcome to Bedtime Stories. The Cheesy Dude. Once upon a time there lived a boy who loved cheese. He could never get enough. He loved Gouda and Edam, Leiden and Bluefort, Maasdam and Provolone, and just about all kind of cheese. The boy weighed only 60 pounds, but he ate like a man 3 times his size. The boy's father was a farmer. Every morning for breakfast the family ate thick slices of wheat bread, fresh milk from their cows and slices of cheese. At dinner time, along with his boiled potatoes and hot melted butter, he also ate cheese, and for dessert he always begged for cheese curds with brown sugar sprinkled on top. Enough of the cheese, his mother scolded him. Don't be greedy. But in between meals the boy would sneak out thin slices of cheese, and still he never had enough. More cheese please, he'd cry. Is your stomach an empty well? His father asked, laughing at him. His sisters loved their brother, but they too teased him. You're worse than a pig, they said, and just as difficult as Rig. They meant their brother was as difficult as Toad. Stop eating, she cried out one warm spring night, and his mother pulled away his plate. You're a greedy boy, she scolded him. The boy was terribly upset. He ran outside to a sandy slope not far from home. He inhaled the sweet spring air and dried his tears. I'm not greedy, he muttered to himself, and he began to walk towards some pine trees. Suddenly he saw a string of lights dancing beneath a tree. One beam shot near him and passed in front of him. Then he heard a voice in his ear saying, "Come cheesy dude, follow us." Fireflies, he thought unknowingly. They must be fireflies. But he watched more closely as those lights converged into one long beam of light. Out of that beam of light stepped a lovely young girl as wispy and beautiful as a fairy. The boy shook his head. It's only a dream, he whispered, and he closed his eyes. Again the voice called to him, "Come cheesy dude, follow us." Then he heard laughter. "Cheesy dude, follow us, there's plenty of cheese where we're from." Now the boy thought of the tales narrated by the ladies in the village. They told about fairies that inhabited the pine forest. They said those fairies lived in fairy rings deep in the woods. This must be a fairy trying to lure him into the woods. The sound and the light rose higher, and the voice called again, "Come cheesy dude with us, there's plenty of cheese for you." The boy's mouth began to water. What have I to lose? He asked himself, and so he began to follow that light and sound, walking right into the dense pine woods. His wooden shoes crushed the soft earth beneath him, and though he tried to walk quietly, before long he came to what looked to be a circle of fireflies. He blinked 3 times, for he could not believe his eyes. The fairies sparkled with light, as if they were tiny lamps with wings. They were holding hands, dancing around and around the ring of grass in the center. "It is the fairy ring," the boy gasped, amazed. In a wink the fairies surrounded the boy. 2 of them, with dainty fingers, took his hands and pulled him forward. "Come, dance with us," they entreated. The boy never danced, but he felt his wooden-clad feet growing light, and his legs began to twitch. And then he was dancing. Amazing that a boy who never danced was here in the pine forest, hands clasped by 2 pretty fairies, dancing and hoping never to stop. He could not remember ever having so much fun as this. All night long the boy and the fairies danced. Then, just as the first beam of light filtered through the branches above, the fairies stopped dancing and disappeared for a moment. When they reappeared before him, they were carrying great trays laden with different types of cheeses: Gouda and Edam, Leiden and Bluefort, Maasdam and Provolone. The fairies handed him slice after slice, brick after brick, and he gleefully ate and chewed and swallowed. He was delighted, for there was no sister to tease him, no father to laugh at him, no mother to stop him from eating and hogging and swallowing. Eventually, the boy's stomach began to feel so full that it began to ach, he could barely breathe. "Stop," he said to the fairies. "I can't eat another bite." But fairies do not like to stop, so more flew out of the sky and came in from the forest, each one carrying a round of cheese. Those rounds were piling up higher and higher, rising up to the sky. Soon the forest no longer smelled like pine trees, it smelled like Limburg. "Stop, please," the boy cried, for the strong smell of Limburg made him feel sick. It was the one cheese he had never liked. Then the fairy queen appeared, holding the largest cheese of all, a brick of cheese so big that the boy feared if she dropped it, it might crush him. Her arm trembled. "Eat this one now," she cried, and he let out a scream of terror. "Please help me, and let go off me, and my craving for the cheese." That's when he woke. The sun was rising up above the crest of the hill near his house. The village clock rang out 6 times. His hair was wet with dew. He looked around but saw no signs of fairies anywhere, and his stomach no longer ached. The boy hurried home and sneaked into his room. He never told a soul about the fairies, and he was never certain if he had met them or not. Still, from that day on he was no longer so greedy and craving for any kind of cheese, and he understood that anything excess is no good. And be happy with the less, for less is more. If you like the story, please do like, share and subscribe. Thank you for listening. Good night.